How many times have you approached something like Christmas, summer, or a family holiday with your clients where you've set them up perfectly to continue to make progress over that period, only to check in with them afterwards and them to be like, yeah, sorry, it all went to shit. You've given them the perfect strategy, you've told them what they should be doing, you've made all of the adjustments to set them up for success, only to be told, sorry, I didn't do any of that, it was Christmas. By the end of this video, you're going to have a simple framework and a simple way to approach conversations with any client that is approaching a time like this, regardless of your style of coaching, plus ways to keep people engaged. And obviously, because of the time of year that I'm recording this, all of the examples that I use will revolve around Christmas, New Year's, that festive period, but they can be applied to any sort of seasonal change that you will go through with your clients, like summer, like family holidays, like anything else that may come up. Now, I am going to take this opportunity to hold my hands up and say a lot of the things that I'm speaking about not doing in this video, I have previously done. When I worked for a body transformation company, I was given, as the coach, a list of strategies, rules, etc. that I should then pass down to my clients to keep them engaged and keep them making progress over Christmas. But then every year, there'd be at least one person, usually way more people, that would come back after that and be like, yeah, didn't do any of that. So this video is not going to be about things like training and nutrition and lifestyle factors and strategies that you can roll out to your clients for that, because you'll already have your own approach and way of doing things in each of those areas. And I want to make sure that it applies to everybody. So this is going to be more of that under the surface type of stuff. How to work with your clients' free will and autonomy and beliefs and traditions and wants and needs so that they'll actually stick to the things that they say they're going to. I just want to highlight again that we are not going to be talking about things like banking calories. We're not going to be talking about things like fasting at certain points of the week. We're not going to be talking about things like adapting training programs so that people aren't training as much or are able to train at home if the gym is closed or if they are traveling to see family or anything like that. We're not going to be talking about things like picking 4 days to track, which is something that I've previously been told to do. So pick 4 days, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day and New Year's Eve, but the rest of the time stick to your calories. We're not going to be talking about any of that, okay? The first thing that you need to remember when we're talking about anything like this, again, using Christmas as the example, but approaching summer, when people go on holiday, anniversaries, celebrations, whatever they may be. But we do need to remember that we are working with adult human beings that all have free will and will ultimately do whatever the fuck they want at the end of the day, okay? Just like you. You will do whatever you want to at the end of the day. And whilst we can give people thoughts, advice, opinions on what they should or shouldn't do, just on a day-to-day basis, not even around times like Christmas or summer or holidays or anything like that, ultimately, in the moment, they're going to pick the thing that they want the most. There are always going to be times where they approach something and they, even if you've set them up perfectly, they will think, they will know that, they will have that in the back of their mind, but they will still go against that. They're not doing it to be dicks. They're not doing it because they don't want it enough. They're not doing it because they're not motivated. Just sometimes, because we are adults, we will always lean in the way of the thing that we want the most. So telling somebody what they should do might work in some cases. Giving people advice and opinions on these things is still something that I think we should be doing, but we can't get frustrated either at ourselves or at our clients when they do the thing that goes against the thing that we've told them to do, okay? Because they are all adults, they all do have autonomy, they all have agency over their own decisions, and then clashing with them after the fact because of whatever they've decided to do isn't useful for anybody, really. That's not to say that we should ignore it, but clashing over that, not really productive for anybody. We also know, using methods like fMRI that measures activity in the brain, that the number one cause of stress in all living creatures, not just human beings and not just measured on mice like a lot of these things are, we know that the number one cause of stress is the removal of freedom, the removal of choice. There's a reason, or should I say loads of reasons, that things like autonomy and agency, the ability to think and choose for ourselves, have such a massive part to play in things like intrinsic motivation. Think about it. You don't like being told what to do. Even if the thing that you're being told is the quote unquote right thing to do, sometimes you will follow it because you know the benefit of doing it, but you still get this inner conflict where you're like, why should I do this just because I'm being told what to do? Your clients will experience that too. Now, they might stick to the things that you've told them to do short term, but over the long term, we really need to empower people to take ownership for their thoughts, to take ownership for the behavior. And that doesn't come from something that we've told them to do. That comes from something that they've thought of themselves and then been able to take ownership for. So if we know that the number one cause of stress in all living beings is the removal of freedom, the removal of choice, then on the flip side of that, choices and the ability to choose for themselves will contribute to that sense of freedom. We know that if we can create situations where we give clients the power to think and act for themselves, it can go one of two ways. It can go terribly, quote unquote, wrong, depending on how you're looking at it. If you're looking at it from a point of view of goal achievement, etc., or it can go very, quote unquote, right. Now, I know that the idea of giving your clients free will to make their own decisions, particularly around times like Christmas, might start the alarm bells ringing, but it can go one of two ways, right? We can give our clients that free will and they can make decisions that will take them further away from their goals, or we can give our clients free will. And if we've done it in the right way and we've had the right conversations before, it can, one, take them closer to their goals, or two, give them that sense of ownership because they've made well-informed decisions, knowing everything that they need to think about to make that decision. So if we can give them that freedom in the right way, they're more likely to make decisions that align with their goals rather than feeling like they're being told what to do and almost rebelling against it anyway, and definitely making decisions that will take them further away from their goals. We just need to make sure that we're doing it in the right way. We also know that research shows us that people are up to 3 times more likely to adhere to things that they came up with for themselves as opposed to the things that they've been told that they need to do. Again, playing into this idea of when we've got autonomy and when we've got the right information that we need and the expectation is right, we are more likely to actually do the thing because we can take ownership for it. Therefore, we know that if we can create a situation, if we can create an environment where your clients have that autonomy, have that power to choose, have that freedom to choose, then provide strategy and conversation and manage expectations around the choices that they've made in advance, that's more likely to increase adherence. And that's ultimately, again, not just at Christmas, not just over the summer, not just while your clients are on holiday. Adherence is the thing that we need to be focusing on to make sure that our clients are making progress towards the things that they signed up for in the first place, towards the goals that they set in the first place. The way that I approach this conversation with people is by using something as simple and as visual as this scale. And this is another form of expectation management. I've got a full video that unpacks expectation management, why it's important, how you should go about it, when you should go about it. It's definitely worth checking out that too. But for the point of this video and the topic that we're talking about, this is what I'm going to use. So I'd sit down with a client, ideally on something like Zoom, so I can share my screen with them and show them this. And I'd say something like, this scale represents the progress that you could make between now and, let's say, the 2nd of January, after the festive period is out of the way. Okay, plus 10 represents you making as much progress as physically possible between now and then. 0 represents maintenance, so you maintaining the situation that you are in right now, today, on this call. And minus 10 represents you taking 10 steps backwards, whatever that is for you. Now, this is where obviously you as the coach will need to give relevant examples of what that is, whatever metrics of success, of progress that you use with your clients, whether it is scale weight loss, measurement loss, changing pictures, performance, relationship with food-based stuff, mindfulness, whatever that is. This can apply to any type of coaching. And I'd ask them So on the 2nd of January, if plus 10 is as much progress as possible, if minus 10 is 10 steps backwards and 0 is maintenance, where on that scale would you be happy with being on the 2nd of January? Now, I've asked so many different people this question around things like Christmas, summer, holidays, all of the examples that I keep referring back to, and never, genuinely, I've never had anybody say anything like, yeah, minus 10 or yeah, minus 5. And I've actually only ever had one person give me an answer on the negative side of the scale. That was a -1. The conversation that happened around that was the client said, over this period, I don't really mind if I take a couple of backward steps because I want to focus on memories and family and all that sort of stuff. Then you can start to navigate that conversation from there, okay? Normally, in my experience, at least with my type of clientele, I would get a +3 or a +4. I've had a couple of +7s. I had one person that gave me a +10. Again, this isn't about you saying, I don't think that's realistic. You've just got to go with whatever they say and go, okay, sick. So make sure you've explained it properly. Make sure you've explained that +10 is as much progress as possible, -10 is backward steps, and 0 is maintenance. Then give them the freedom to choose. Okay, I found, at least with my types of clients, this could be massively different for somebody that focuses on heavy body transformation. You might get a lot more +8s, +9s, +10s, particularly if they've got things like shoots booked, events booked, whatever it is. I would imagine, because I've only got personal experience with my types of clients, right? I would imagine that where your, I guess, average rating lands will depend on the type of client and the type of work that you are doing. But again, this is not for you to, if somebody says +2, it's not for you to try and convince them to aim for a +5. If somebody says 0, it's not your job to try and convince them to aim for a +3. All we're doing here is gathering data, okay? And yes, I get it. This is quite a subjective way of doing things, but all we're trying to do at this point is get a feel for what people would actually be happy with, rather than us assuming everybody wants to make as much progress as humanly possible at all times, okay? Now we're starting to take into account their wants, their needs, because they will know their beliefs and their traditions around these times more than we can as coaches. So when you've got whatever that number is off the client, then you can start the conversation around expectation management. And that's one of the things that I cover in the expectation management video, is that it's not a case of you just dictating how things should go to your clients. It's definitely not addressing expectations at all, but it is actually a back and forth a conversation. So if that client's come to you and said, yeah, I would be happy with a +5, then essentially the conversation comes back to us so we can set expectations about what is going to be required for that to be possible on the 2nd of January or whatever time frame that you've given your client. Now, for the sake of the video, I am going to use weight loss as the example, but this is where you need to be able to apply the relevant things to your coaching and the metrics of progress that you use with your clients. So if we've said, right, 0 would be maintenance, +10 would be, I don't know, 4 kilograms weight loss. So +5 would be 2 kilograms weight loss, and you still want to make progress, but you are happy to reduce the rate of progress over this period of time. Here's what that looks like in practice. Now you can start to tailor your approach to nutrition, training, lifestyle factors to that. But here's what quote unquote needs to be done if you want to aim for that +5 by this period of time. Is that something that you are ready, willing, and able to commit to over this period? Here's what this would look like for that period between Christmas and New Year's. Here's what this would look like on those days, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, whatever it is that is important to your client. Then they get to say, yeah, actually, if that leads me to be at a +5 or -2 kilograms on the scales on the 2nd of January, and they're the things that would be required of me to continue to do that, I actually am able to do that. Or, no, do you know what? This is what we normally do. This is how it normally is in my household with my family. Maybe they're going to have, like me this year, they're going to have 2 Christmas days because they've got one with their family and then they've got one with their partner's family. So I'll give you my example. If I'd have said a +5 and somebody had come back to me and said, this is what needs to be done, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, then I get to think, actually, is that realistic with everything that we've got going on, our traditions around this period? So me and Maria, for example, are traveling across to my mum and dad to have Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and then we're going to travel down to Norfolk to have a belated Christmas Day and Boxing Day with Maria's family. So then I get to look at that and go, if this is what's required, actually, these are the things that I've got in. Maybe a +5 isn't realistic. What would it look like if we were to slow down the rate of progress a little bit more? I still want to make progress. I don't just want to sit at maintenance. I still want to continue to move forwards. But now that we're having this conversation about expectations and what is going to be required, I can make conscious, informed decisions. You're giving me the freedom to choose, but I'm taking into account what those things mean. Using this, you get to go back and forth with your client until you've settled on, yeah, this is what I'd be happy with. This is what that would look like in reality, in practice, in this period. I was going to say that I really do think that this is the way that things work best. But what I'm actually going to say is, from personal experience, I hands down know that this is the best way to navigate things with your clients. Again, I am not sitting here and telling you, you should bring your clients up to maintenance and you should adjust training and you should do this and you should do that. Because what you do with your clients and what they signed up for coaching with you for is none of my business, essentially. All I'm doing is giving you the tools and the knowledge to handle these things so that people keep moving forward. All I care about is that your clients stay with you and, more importantly, stay engaged long term, because that's what will give them the best possible chance to achieve a life-changing result. And that's what this is all about. The last point that I want to make about this before we move on is that you are still absolutely well within your rights, and it is within your power to give your opinion, but I would suggest that you do that after you've had this conversation. Don't go into the conversation and say, this is a scale, this is what 0 means, this is what +10 means, this is what -10 means, I think you should stay at 0. Let them get their thoughts across first and then navigate that conversation. Examples where this might work is if you know you've got somebody that maybe struggles a little bit with control around food, particularly when they've got access to it. You know how Christmas is. If they come to you and say, yeah, I am full steam ahead, I want to go +10, you're well within your rights to give your opinion and say something like, look, given how we know that you respond around food and these are the things that we've been working on and this is what we're dealing with, I actually think it would be more realistic for you to aim for whatever, but do that after the conversation. Allow them to give you whatever number. You set the expectation around that. So if somebody goes, I want a +10, say, okay, cool, I will support you with whatever you want, but here's what this means. A, B, C, X, Y, Z. This is what you're going to have to do on a daily basis if you want to be at that +10. Let them respond and then open the line of conversation there and go, given what I know and what we've been working on and how you respond around things, it might be more realistic to aim for a +6 instead. How do you feel about that? Again, back and forth conversation. So it doesn't matter what your type of coaching is. It doesn't matter who your clients are. It's the same underlying process for all of them, okay? You just need to be able to apply this to your approach. Now, the final thing that I want to pay a bit of attention to, because it is something that worked incredibly well for my clients around this time and during summer, was implementing some sort of group challenge, okay? Every single year between Christmas and New Year's, I had something called the No Man's Land Challenge. For that time between Christmas and New Year's, where people don't know what day of the week it is, there's still all of the leftovers everywhere, there's still boxes of celebrations and roses and heroes and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things that, is it the new year? It's not Christmas anymore, but I don't know what to do. I want to get back into the gym, but I'm setting up for New Year, new me, whatever, right? I knew historically that is something that my type of client, that period of time, my type of client struggled with that. So if I know that this period of time is something that my clients struggle with, and I've not been proactive and implemented something to counteract that, particularly if I want to take time off of things like check-ins, if we enter January and everybody's essentially been stuck in the mud and I've done nothing about it in advance, whose fault is that? Is that their fault or is that my fault? I would say, as the business owner taking responsibility for things, I would say that's on me. So without dictating what your challenge should be for your clients to keep them engaged, because again, our approaches might be very different, I'll just talk through what I did. 3 important things that I did is I incentivized it. I used it as a way to continue to build community and keep people engaged, and it was also dual purpose. The way that we carried out the No Man's Land challenge is I essentially created a graphic on Canva that was the perfect size to fit an Instagram story. You'll see why in a second. I had almost like a bingo card of those period of days. So the 26th, the 27th, right through until New Year's Day. It had things like hit your water target, do a certain amount of steps. It wasn't all revolving around just like typical fitness things. Hit your protein target, yes, but there was also things like mindset challenges on there. There was also like piss take things on there, so take a selfie here, whatever, again, just to get people engaged. The way that I incentivized it was that every single one of those boxes that they ticked off on a daily basis, let's say there was 5 or 6, I can't remember off the top of my head, things that they could do on a daily basis, would gain them 1 entry into a prize draw. Because you've got to make it fair, right? You might have some absolute robot freak clients that are going to do everything all of the time, full steam ahead. They've given you the +10 and that's their intentions and they're going to stick to it. If you've got a client like that and you set the challenge up in a way that it's just whoever does the most automatically wins, that can actually dishearten your clients that might have kids or might be traveling and might not be able to tick as many of those boxes. So the way that I set it up was the more of these boxes that you can tick, you get an entry into a prize draw. It means that even if people can only tick 2 or 3 or 4 of those 5 or 6 or 7 boxes every single day, they've still got a chance to win. So there's still something to engage for. Now, I know ultimately we shouldn't have to incentivize clients all of the time to do the things. That's not what I'm saying. Extrinsic forms of motivation, though, are useful in certain periods of time. And that's what essentially this is. The way that it brought the community together is I got them all to engage in the group chat around the challenge on a daily basis, posting what they've managed to do, posting what they've not managed to do, asking them how they're finding things, just keeping people together. And then the dual purpose side of it was the reason that I created it as a perfect size for an Instagram story is to gain that final tick on each day. They had to upload it to their Instagram story and tag me in it. The dual purpose side of things is that all of their friends, family, followers, etc. are then seeing that every single day to then bring more eyes to what they are doing and then in turn me as a coach. At the end of it, draw the prize. It doesn't need to be anything massive. I'm not saying that you need to spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds to incentivize your clients to keep making progress, but having that almost carrot dangled will help in times where people would normally take the foot off the gas. So, final reminders. And I know that this slide might piss some people off, but it is what it is, okay? Be a human being and not just a fitness wanker. And what I mean by that is, you might never have struggled with food, ever. You might come from a family that have never struggled with food, ever. You might absolutely love training. I know people, I've previously trained on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and so on, okay? You might be one of those people. There is nothing wrong with that. You are not like your clients, and that is actually a good thing. But that doesn't mean that your clients aren't like that. That doesn't mean that traditionally, if you look at your family's traditions, culturally, societally, people do struggle around this time of year. So actually meeting them where we're at, we all say, I'll meet you where you're at. Really do meet them where they're at and take that into account, okay? Being the drill sergeant and cracking the whip through this period of the year might work for some people. If you've got an incredibly, highly, intrinsically motivated robot of a client that has got something like a holiday, a shoot, a show, an event, a sporting event, something like that early into next year, actually the right thing for that client might not be to take the foot off the gas. But for the most part, supporting your clients with whatever they decide to do and whatever they would be happy with achieving over periods like this will see you far better off in the long run than cracking the whip. Because here's something that I learned the hard way early into my years coaching. And that is that you are far better off your clients not making quote unquote progress, whatever that is for them, but being okay with it, feeling okay about it, and taking ownership for it, then continuing to push people and persuading them of what they should do or shouldn't do, them not being able to achieve it, and then feeling like a failure. Because the thing that actually is going to lead clients to drop off and disengage isn't actually the progress that they do or don't make. It's how they feel about that progress or lack of progress. If come the 2nd of January, they've essentially sat at maintenance, whatever that is for you, your clients, and your coaching, but they're okay about it, they've taken ownership for it, and more importantly, they are refreshed and ready to go, than if you'd continue to push them and maybe squeezed a tiny bit more progress out of them at the cost of them, A, feeling like a failure, and B, starting to resent you for it. And finally, if you are a coach that likes this approach to coaching that doesn't just revolve around macros and training splits and that sort of stuff, make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment below if you've got any questions about any of the stuff that I've covered in this video.